It was a routine rush hour in Los Angeles County, with one commuter train heading south toward the city and another pushing north against the flow. Neither crew knew that an unrelated decision, made blocks apart, was about to converge and put both trains in harm's way, ending in a chain reaction that cost the lives of 11 and injured almost 200 more. This is the story of the Glendale train crash. Shortly after 5 a.m. on the 26th of January 2005, Metrolink Train 100 departed Ventura County on its morning commuter run toward Los Angeles. Consisting of 3 Bombardier bi-level passenger cars, with an F-59PH locomotive pushing from the rear, the service had around 220 people heading to the city. Departing Los Angeles at a similar time, Metrolink Train 901 was heading northbound toward Antelope Valley against the flow of traffic. Also a 3-car bi-level set, its F-59PHI locomotive was pulling from the front. Southbound train number 100 was operating in a configuration known as push-pull. This means the locomotive stays at one end and either pulls from the front or pushes from the back. If the train is in push mode, as train 100 was, the engineer controls the train remotely from the lead passenger car known as a cab car. This saves time on turnarounds and simplifies operations. However, it comes with a trade-off. Structurally identical to a regular passenger coach, there are no reinforced crumple zones or crash-resistant framing you'd find in a locomotive. It was a decision that saved time and money, but would soon prove deadly. What no one aboard train numbers 100 and 901 could know was that, within minutes, their routine commute would collide with the choices of a man in deep personal turmoil. 25-year-old Juan Manuel Alvarez had a history of substance abuse and mental health issues. In the months prior, his wife had obtained a restraining order against him, reporting erratic, threatening, and controlling behavior. Shortly before 6 a.m., Alvarez drove his Jeep Cherokee to the Chevy Chase Drive grade crossing near Glendale. According to the reports, after using a knife to inflict multiple wounds upon himself, looking for a way out, drove the vehicle onto the tracks and left it positioned across the rails. However, he changed his mind as the train approached. Whether he was unable or simply unwilling to move it, he abandoned the vehicle and left it across the tracks. At about the same time that train number 901 was departing from Glendale station ahead, train 100, with more than 200 on board, was approaching the Chevy Chase Drive crossing with Alvarez's Jeep parked across it. The engineer applied the emergency brake when he saw it, but it was too late. Being pushed from behind, the lead passenger car of train 100 hit the Jeep at full speed at around 6:03 a.m. Continuing forward, the Jeep lodged under the train's wheels, causing it to derail when they crossed a set of turnout points just past the crossing. Sent smashing into the locomotive of a parked freight train, the lead passenger car was crumpled and shortened by 8 meters. If this wasn't bad enough, the impact caused it to jackknife, tearing apart couplers, and pushing the wreckage over the northbound track, right as train 901 was fast approaching. As 901 collided with it, the wreckage of train 100 sideswiped its second passenger car, ripping it open, destroying several rows of seats, and pushing its last car onto its side. First on the scene following the tragedy were employees from a nearby Costco. After leaping the fence, they called 911, pulled survivors from the wreckage, and used fire extinguishers on the flames that had been started by leaking fuel igniting on hot metal. Within minutes, a massive response built out, around 300 firefighters, helicopters overhead, and search dogs looking for those trapped. When all was told, 11 people were dead and 177 more were injured. In the weeks and months following the tragedy, criticism fell on the push-pull configuration and the use of a standard passenger car as the leading vehicle. Advocates argued that with a heavier locomotive at the front, a derailment would likely not have happened. Investigators also highlighted that the cab car, that is the passenger coach that led from the front and impacted the Jeep, lacked any crash-dedicated energy structure. Unlike purpose-built cab cars used elsewhere, the ones used by Metrolink were essentially the exact same structure as a regular passenger coach, and in the crash, the lack of reinforced framing had led to the carriage essentially folding, with the stairways and floors intruding into the spaces occupied by passengers. In the immediate aftermath, Metrolink banned passengers from riding in the Ford carriage when it led. By 2007, however, restrictions were eased so that only the forwardmost section behind the engineer remained roped off to passengers when the train was being pushed, pending the arrival of new purpose-built cab cars. The NTSB conducted the investigation into the accident, while the Glendale police led the case into any criminal misconduct. Police first treated the crash as an aborted act of self-sabotage, but later said the evidence may have suggested he intended to cause the crash and not die himself. Juan Manuel Alvarez was arrested and charged with 11 counts of murder with special circumstances and 1 count of arson. His defense said that he intended to take his own life, changed his mind, and was unable to move his vehicle in time. However, prosecutors portrayed something different, that he had deliberately set out to cause the crash to gain the attention of his estranged ex-wife, and they pressed an old law dating to the 19th century, under which train wrecking leading to the loss of life can be punishable by death. On the 26th of June 2008, a jury found Alvarez guilty of 11 counts of first-degree murder with special circumstances and 1 count of arson. However, he was acquitted of the charge of train wrecking and therefore would avoid the death penalty. On the 20th of August 2008, he was sentenced to 11 consecutive life terms with no chance of parole. In the months and years following the accident, civil lawsuits were filed against Metrolink. The suits claimed the engineer spotted the Jeep from 3/4 of a mile away, but had not triggered the emergency brake until less than 800 feet from impact. Evidence, they argued, showed inadequate training and a delayed response. By the end of 2009, Metrolink had settled the vast majority of lawsuits, paying roughly $39 million to resolve 186 claims, including 11 for wrongful death and others for serious injuries. In the years that followed, the Regional Rail Authority invested over $500 million across more than 500 miles of track, sealing grade crossings, upgrading rolling stock, among other improvements. Metrolink later introduced new cab cars with built-in crash energy zones, purpose-designed to absorb a potential impact when the train is operating in push mode. The Glendale crash started with one man's choices and compounded through a brutal sequence of events. A Jeep across the track, a derailment at a turnout, a parked freight locomotive, and a second commuter train arriving at exactly the wrong time. For hundreds of riders, a routine commute became a fight to survive, and for 11 of them, it was the end of the line. That's all for today's video. If you found value in it, I'd love it if you subscribed and joined me for the next one. To learn about the mystery of the Amtrak 188 crash, you can click the link on screen. And as always, thanks for watching.